This is how I write articles and scripts. And by the end of this video, you can do it too. You know, it's very common nowadays, especially in the productivity space, to demonize the phone. Like it's the basis of all addictions, and it distracts you from your work, and get no sleep, and get no friends or whatever. So all trying to sort of banish the phone altogether and brag about the screen time or whatever and how low you can get it each week. To make it absolutely clear, it's not that I'm denying all these things, because they do exist and it's a problem for many people. But I think we very often throw out the baby from the bathwater there. So just as it's happening from the phone addiction doesn't necessarily correlate with it. There are two different things. And I won't go into phone addiction in this video, other than this is a very complex issue and involves many parts. But I've been using the phone productively for pretty much 2 years now, and we'll show you how to do it. There are two things we need to do on the phone first before we can talk productivity. Turn off non-essential notifications, make sure that the productive apps are as accessible as possible. There are so many people that have these red numbers and all these unread notifications on the lock screen. Aside from the fact that it looks very cluttered, it's also preventing you from actually easily distinguish between have I read this or have I not read this. And just to avoid this pinging and notifications, I recommend that you simply turn off them for almost all the apps, except for the most important, of course. Other than that, it's all about organizing your home screen, because too often there comes with like standard home screen layouts like this, and it's not optimized at all towards what we want. One way to organize your home screen is this. First, you see the calendar widget, which takes almost all space, but other than that, you got important apps like, for instance, Google Tasks for keeping track of your projects, 2 note-taking apps for me because it's where I do most of the work, and also Google Docs in case there is some things that need collaboration. But then we also have other apps like, for instance, Google in order to search for basic information, and YouTube is sort of the same way in order to quickly get familiarized on one topic on the fly. And then of course camera and voice memos if you're doing stuff like these. Google Drive for file storage, Spotify to get some good music to enjoy the experience more. And that's pretty much all you need. But you can use any app that prefers you. What matters is that you use them on a more consistent basis. As long as they're very easy to use, so you can simply jump between the apps and write stuff on the fly and stuff like that. Optimize for the easy part and then you'll be fine. And it's super important to keep them at the home screen, especially at the first one, because if you have to somewhat scroll past them or stuff like that, go into folders, then you run the actual risk of not using them at all, especially in the beginning when you have to train your habit formation a little bit. And with that said, let's go over to the actual typing. The process itself is very simple because it has to, otherwise you won't do it. You just go into your note-taking apps wherever you are and just start typing from where you left off. And here's some key tips on how you can write on your phone the fastest. Think of you normally write on the computer, but now replace your hands for your thumbs, and then you get the same way. Each thumb is responsible for each half of the screen, so the right one is responsible for the right half of the keyboard and vice versa. And it's very important that you keep these positions, that right on the right side and left on the left side, because you don't want to look on your phone all the time, especially when you're walking, because you have all these things like traffic and other people and stuff like that, when you gotta be aware of them. Whatever you do, make sure that safety comes first, both for you and for other people, and for nature's sake, do not do this while driving, ever. Instead, you should alternate between looking up and looking down. Looking up, looking down, looking up. It's sort of like you have to train your eyes a little bit in order to sort of switch between those, but that is the key to effective practice, both when it comes to typing, but also when it comes to navigating in general. Of course, it's a skill in its own, so it can be quite slow in the beginning, but it's all about keeping the patience and just know that you are doing new skill and be patient with yourself. And in the beginning, just try with doing like normal stuff, like sitting and waiting in line and waiting after you eat and stuff like that. Just try doing it on your phone, and then afterwards you can sort of do the more walking stuff later. So it's all about the progressive overload from there. But the more time you invest, the more you get better, and the better it will be all at the end. So it's all worth it. And you should also expect that you will always type slower than you would type on the computer, but it's the fact that you don't necessarily have the computer all the time, but you have your phone. So that's the thing that I want to talk about next. This shift to writing on your phone instead of writing on computer is kind of the same thing like when you first was gathering in front of the TV, but then realized that you could do all of this on your computer instead, and now on your phone, and maybe something else next time. I don't know what the metaverse people are thinking, but it's way easier now, so it's more likely that you actually do it, which is the point. And also you have these extra small snippets now. Like, think what you would do instead if you're like waiting on the bus or traveling between airports and stuff like that. Normally you just scroll social media, but now you don't need to do it. You can just make progress on whatever you want and accomplish whatever you want much faster. So it's all positive feedback loop cycle from there, that you simply create value in any span of time. And when you're at the computer, you can reserve that time for the tasks that normally only take your computer and you cannot do this on the phone. So it's pretty much a very good way to separate what you do. And there's also something very special about walking itself. As the famous philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, that all truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. And I feel the same way when I'm walking and doing like stuff on the phone, that it's sort of like giving this extra creative juice just by having the thoughts just walk around as well. I know it's hard to explain, but if you do this on a regular basis, you will sort of get to understand this a little bit better, that all this feedback from nature and do these other things while moving too, it's sort of enhancing the whole experience overall. It's been one of my happiest moments in my life, really. So I wish you the best of luck, and remember that once you go into this mode of creation, in this walking style, you will never look back.